Hey there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back. It's another Red Pill Religion show, another return of the deflating and escaping atheism team. Um, Please, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube. Hit that bell. But also remember, in these days of social media censorship, we've been chased around had multiple channels false flagged, and even one taken out. You can always be able to find us on redpillreligion.com. We really appreciate it if people join us on Subscribestar or through Bitcoin or PayPal. We especially appreciate you recurring donors on that. We have closed to the public the Discord chat room at this point, and you will have to be, although people currently in the Discord chat are grandfathered in from this point on to join, we'd have to ask you to become one of our subscribers. At even $1 a month, we would be more than happy to have you in. Also, please find us on MeWe, on Gab, on Dissenter, and so on. And joining us tonight, I'm happy to see, is, oops, I had the wrong thing open here, is Deflating Atheism. Say hello to everybody, Deflate.
Hey, everybody.
It's good to hear from you. Everybody be sure to subscribe to Deflating Atheism's channel, where he will also probably, I imagine, be mirroring this video.
Yep.
And tonight we're going to talk about two things. I don't want to spend more than a few minutes on this because I'm tired of interacting with the atheist, skeptic, rationalist community. I no longer, I mean, it's official, I no longer get on the air with professional atheists anymore. Years of dealing with them and their garbage is getting to me. Mm-hmm. But I got a flash from the past recently, and a video that I had made with my son, Max Jr., a couple of years ago. Again, people were accusing me of child abuse for this video. People from the atheist community, of course, because only someone from the atheist community would make such an absurd claim. I wound up putting it back online. Therefore, I had taken it offline some time ago. But basically, I won't be smeared by people saying I'm afraid to put it up. Deflating Atheism, I got to say, you were one of the ones who caused me to make this video with my child. Did you know that?
Yes. With the response to "It's Not Emmy."
Yes, there was at one time at that time, contemporaneously, a couple of years ago, a YouTuber called "It's Not Emmy." I've noticed we can't find her anymore. At least I can't find her anymore. Are you aware if she still exists as a YouTuber?
Well, what I said is that her entire existence may have been a violation of the terms of service, because I don't think 13-year-olds are really allowed to have their own YouTube channels for kind of understandable reasons.
Well, I don't know where it is on that. I had always assumed when a child has parental permission that's okay. But maybe it got taken away from her for that reason. I don't know, because I've seen other young people on channels with their parents' permission. But maybe you're right there. I don't know, because one of the things that my son, who goes by Max Jr., and by the way, his real name is nobody's business. I had repeatedly asked the atheist, skeptic, rationalist community to stop using my name publicly. I was going under the name Max Kolbe, and I asked that people not use my real legal name because it was causing harassment of my family. They, of course, never respected that, because that's what the atheist, skeptic, rationalist community is like. They like doxing people and harassing them to drive them offline. They've been doing it for years. So, you know, what they wound up doing, my son, Max Jr., with my permission and his mother's permission, did have his own YouTube channel around this time. And we made a video together that wasn't directly a response to "It's Not Emmy," but I'm still proud of the video, to be honest with you. People will say, I don't know, some have said I'm using my child inappropriately. I thought, well, you know, we have the example of what the atheists are willing to do with their kids. I didn't actually put my kid's name out there or his picture. But people went and found his channel and false flagged it down with BS violations. And it was not taken out because he was too young. And I can tell you he's 14 now, and he still has a YouTube channel that his mom and I are aware of and monitor. He just hides his identity, so you'll never find him, because there's actually a lot of kids with YouTube channels. They tend to hide, you know, they tend to do weird videos online anyway that there's mostly only other kids their age care about. You have to watch them, of course, because sex predators might come after them, or atheists might come and be all butthurt and seek vengeance on them. Um, I wanted to just make a statement about all this because I've never talked about it before. Because I don't know, a few Christians were like, I don't know if I would have done it quite that way, but not many. Most really loved it. And I noticed actually when it first got released, it got several hundred downvotes and almost no upvotes. When I re-uploaded it, it got quite a few upvotes for the new channel and quite a bit fewer downvotes, even though I put it up on a dare from atheists.
No, did you not get a little boost from Freedom from Atheism Foundation?
I don't know. Maybe they posted that?
Or maybe it was a different video, yeah.
Well, I'd love it if they would post it again. Atheist Republic, I should say, recently more or less did the equivalent of a shadow ban of me. I had been commenting on their page and challenging them on some stuff they didn't like me challenging. And they force unfollow. There's something you can do with a Facebook page, and you force unfollow somebody. So I'm no longer allowed to follow them, and I'm no longer allowed to post any comments or like or comment on anything. I can just read it. I seem to have hurt their feelings over there at Atheist Republic. They're such cowards and bullies. They really are. I talked to Jim Majors from them, and boy, what a I don't know, man, what a weasel. Won't admit to problems in his community or the ideology he puts out. Just won't admit to it.
I mean, when we did our debate, I could have put more effort into underlining his hypocrisy, but I thought it was really just so self-evident I didn't even need to do that.
Well, let's get this story out. This is one of your better earlier videos too. You called it the closing of the American mind because you were right. This was a girl who was maybe 12 or 13 at the time, and she was making these atheist videos and talking about how, you know, she used to be religious and she used to believe in God, but now she realizes that's all brainwashing and it's harmful. And, you know, there is no magic man in the sky, and religion is bad, and blah, blah, blah. And she's a girl at that age, obviously scripted by her parents, especially if you watched other videos. And nobody in the atheist, there she is wearing an Armored Skeptic t-shirt. So yeah. Armored Skeptic groupie at the time. Greg, what's his name? Nobody in the atheist, skeptic, rationalist community could take a boo, just could say boo about this girl, or the stuff she was saying, or the way she was attempting to indoctrinate children, and that she was being influenced by, you know, questionable people online, like Armored Skeptic. The hypocrisy is amazing. In my video, my son's name was never out there. He was never on camera, and he was already making his own YouTube videos. And by the way, I'll repeat again, in revenge, they took out his whole channel. And he wasn't taken out for being too young. He was taken out for BS flags. And so some people complained that he sounded robotic and that I was therefore torturing him, which is a nice way of making fun of a kid with a slight speech impediment because he's mildly autistic. For the record, my kid is very religious. He loves going to church. He drags me to church. He reminds me when it's time to pray. He's one of those kids. He loves it all. And one of the reasons I started was because I realized I had been bullied and I had seen other people be bullied by atheists. And it was time for kids to who know there's a God to be able to defend themselves. I've gotten mostly positive feedback from religious people. So I don't know. I guess I wanted to ramble about that. Can you think of anything else you'd like to say about this? I mean, do you think I should never put it up?
No. You obviously had something to get off your chest.
So atheists, you can suck it. Even a 12, 14-year-old kid can debunk your arguments and challenge your arguments, and you'll have to live with it. You don't get to indoctrinate children with your atheism. And by the way, it is an indoctrinated position. In fact, I loved what you said in this whole video, Rob, something about how basically by joining atheism online, she was joining a group that would give her instant validation and call her brilliant and brave and daring and a hero and a brave, super intelligent little girl, all just for declaring herself atheist and being nasty and shallow and stupid about religious people. And this kind of thing is just like, nobody should ever be able to deny that you can indoctrinate a child into atheism now, because you can. And anybody who's got a problem with me allowing my child, who had his own channel because he wanted one, to make a video with me, where he's not online and his name wasn't even on it, and we asked people to respect our privacy, but they didn't? Yeah, suck it. I'm proud of my video. So there. So there. All right.
Yeah.
Rant over. I recommend all religious people look at this. I really do, because you can teach your kid to defend themselves from atheist BS, ideological atheist BS, very quickly. I guess some got mad when I said you can't trust atheists because when they say there's no evidence, they're lying. But really, every kid out there, you should know this. If an atheist says there's no evidence for God, that atheist is lying, and you shouldn't trust anything else that atheist ever says. They have an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad, but it's true, and I won't apologize for telling my kid that either. So let's talk about.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, just to kind of wrap up. Basically, the whole theme of deflating atheism is that atheism, new atheism, movement atheism, has been very good at exploiting people's vanity and their laziness. And so it sees young people, and they're desperate for validation. They're desperate for feeling like they belong to part of a group. And so it preys on all those things. It gives them validation. It gives them self-esteem. It makes them feel like they're superior to a huge segment of the population. All of this is catnip to a teenager. And
at this point, I'm sorry, a sort of slightly arrested development millennial in his 20s. At this point.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is it allows them to basically protract their adolescence well into middle age, and I think like 10 years ago, you could say there are a lot of things that exploit people's need to feel like they're exploit young people's need to feel like they're part of a group. But like 10 years ago, movement atheism was the only game in town. Now it's like, well, you can go into like a Petersonian cult, or you could go into like a Ben Shapiro thing, and he has a lot of these same kind of snotty, smart alecky appeal that the New Atheist did a few years ago. Only obviously he's coming at it from the perspective of an Orthodox Jew. So right now, if a teenager has that need, there are actually a bunch of different directions they can go these days.
Yep. Oh, I guess I just want to add one last parting shot on this one. You see this logo? You see this? My kid made that himself because he was so excited about the project. And what he actually, for a while there, was after me because he wanted to start getting on live streams with us, including with you. He wanted to call it the Escaping Atheism Conference. He made up signs for it. He made up this logo. We had the old A logo, but he made up this. He wanted to name our group Entering Theism Productions. This was all him. And I remind people, he had his own channel taken out in retribution. That's how nasty and scummy the internet atheists actually are. And then they imply that I was doing something he didn't want to do. Oh my God, atheists, you hang out with scum. And any of your celebrity atheist friends who don't tell you that you should have left my kid alone, pee on you. I'm not going to name any more of their names because they're awful people, and I just don't want their fans coming around. Oh, maybe I should. Godless Engineers, Steve McRae, Shannon, what's her face, and her boyfriend. Yes, I said mean words to her. I shouldn't have, but she's horrible anyway. Anybody of the Armored Skeptics, Target of Akkad, Paul Elam, Karen Strawn, all of these scummy ideological Christian-hating atheists online. You should be ashamed of the way you and your community went after and harassed a father and his family when you were all silent with this, not Emmy. All right, so let's turn to politics now.
That's a little Max Kolbe 1.0, yeah.
Exactly. He wanted to go by Max Jr. He went by Max Jr. the longest time. And then he stopped, of course. Now he's hidden. You're not going to find his ass. And his voice has changed. And he knows. Atheists online are scum. All of the people I just named helped confirm that online atheists are scummy people. This means you, if I named your name, by the way, and any of your friends or fans, your fans too. So moving on, let's talk about politics. I got to tell you, because I'm sick of this dealing with atheists all the time. That is no longer a central thing we do here all the time. In politics, I see. I have been pretty confident for the longest time that there was no collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. And at this point, after a 2+ year investigation, guess what? Big nothing. It seems that defenders of the whole thing still want to point to, even though he couldn't come up with anything specific, he said there might possibly be evidence of obstruction of justice, but not even enough to bring that forward as a believable charge.
Yeah.
At this point, and I'm going to tell you, I don't think, like, for example, I follow QAnon, but I'm not a QAnon tool believer. You know, I got my skeptic bag eyes on. I have decided I will probably be supporting Trump. Next year probably, but I have no illusions. I don't think he's without corruption, without scandal. Nobody in Washington is. Nobody at his level is. I don't think he's necessarily the most honest or trustworthy person ever, but I like a lot of things about him, and his opposition has been desperate to simply take him out of office since the day he was elected.
Yes. And you do have to admit he's been vetted like no other president has been vetted. Even if you say he may have some skeletons in his closet, no one has undergone the examination both before and after the election that he has.
Yeah, you know, if you think they had the really big, I mean, they've got things. Oh gosh, he's slept around with prostitutes. My God, nobody in Washington D.C. ever does that. No billionaire with too much money and power ever did that. I mean,
and then they elevated Stormy Daniels to a folk hero. That was the weirdest thing, and they took all these mercenary slime balls like Robert Mueller and Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti, and suddenly these were the heroes of liberals. It's like they completely voided their own principles and lionized mercenary slime balls that had no relation to liberal ideals, and lionized old white establishment men like Robert Mueller and McCabe and all those guys, and they pinned all their hopes on and dreams on these establishment scumballs. It's like I thought you guys were supposed to be the rebels, you know? What happened? I thought you were supposed to stand for some sort of ideals. Instead, all anyone has to do is just promise that they can make bad Orange Man go away, and you will pledge your undying loyalty to them. Basically, that's how the left, I'll put that in quotation marks, became such huge supporters of guys like Michael Avenatti. And I showed you that he was like the #1 most important player in the Vanity Fair People of the Year list. It's like, take a look at yourselves. You know what's happened to your entire liberal ideology.
Well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and come out in defense of liberals here. I think that partly because some people can laugh, I used to be one, but I really do think that even though I have become more and more and more reactionary and conservative, I simply have, and I don't consider Donald Trump all that conservative, but the real liberals have always existed. The real liberals right now are horrified with what's going on with free speech on campuses and everywhere. The real liberals are horrified by the antics of Antifa. The real liberals are horrified at the growing racial animosity that they're seeing between white and black, and yes, even toward whites, at the excess of what they'll call at least the excesses of feminism. They're there. They were always there. I think, though, they were being used as props. I mean, I really can name a few that I think, like Bobby Kennedy Jr. and a few others that are Tom. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. They're out there. They really believe that, you know, in liberal values as championed by, you know, Americans for generations that do really believe in free speech and do really believe in free elections and don't believe in communism, but do think the state can have a strong role in making things better. Those people still, Alan Dershowitz is another one who's been that way. They're there, but they've been removed from the Democratic Party just about completely at the moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, you always say as a person living in the Rust Belt, I mean, you still do have some of the Union Democrats hanging on, but it's a weird scene at the DNC where you have the Teamsters in one corner and the green-haired feminists in the other, and it's kind of made known to the Union people that they're not really welcome at the party anymore, you know.
Well, yeah. I would have to say that's what's left of the Rust Belt. I mean, I'm here in Michigan, and what's left of the auto unions and the Teamsters unions, they don't have anything like the power they used to have. And you can criticize them, but it's pretty clear that they're pretty uncomfortable in contemporary Democratic ranks. They really, really are. And they have a lot of union members that even if the union wants to support a particular Democrat, I think what you see a lot of is we need you to support this Democrat in Congress, but you vote for anybody you need to at the presidential level, because a lot of these guys, let's face it, they are the middle class, middle-aged white men, frequently religious, that are most hated. And they don't sit well with the teachers' unions either, because the mentality of people from the teachers' unions is completely different from the mentality of an auto line guy or a guy who's working in the shipping industry. It's just, the Democratic coalition is very fractious right now, and it appears to me that really, we just got to say it, they're turning into an outright socialist party.
I have a kind of different read on the situation.
Well, go ahead.
Well, geez. My point is that they say, oh, well, there's a movement further left towards socialism, towards communism. I don't really take the socialism and communism part seriously. I know that will be a very controversial statement. It's like, yeah, they have people like AOC. They're endorsing her because she brings much needed youth and vitality, and she can actually get that far left Antifa or whatever contingent and actually get them on board with basically the corporate neoliberal Democrat Party, which they really have no intrinsic connection to these the Hillary Clinton Democrats. And once she accomplishes that goal, she just gets chucked overboard. Because I mean, no Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer have any interest in like the Green New Deal or any of that crazy stuff. They just want to chuck her overboard once she's done her purpose, and that is what I see the left. Never stop putting that in quotation marks, because there is no governing ideology to the whole of it. It is all people who are exploiting each other in the worst possible faith. So at the very bottom rungs, yes, you do have the, poor as dirt, schematic, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, whatever. I don't really think they're just driven by hatred. I don't think they actually have any sort of communist ideal or anything. I think they just want, like Steve Turley says, they just want to see the world burn, basically. And then you have there's like a weird vertical integration. Then you have the basically Hillary Clinton, center left, corporate neoliberal, who are irrelevant. And so I think it is the fact that the Hillary Clinton Democrats have completely bottomed out is the reason that people to the further left are getting more of the spotlight. Not because people are actually moving left, just that center left has bottomed out, and so just simply by exclusion, the further left is getting more attention. Then I think at the top, and this is where it kind of gets into maybe the realm of conspiracy, I do think you have players like George Soros, who again, I don't think their ideology is nothing intrinsic to liberalism or leftism or the Communist Party. They're coming from a completely different angle, but it's like a virus that has infected basically the Democrat Party as a host for this kind of virus, and it uses the Democrat Party to its own ends, but in kind of a way that's completely non-ideological. It could be any political party. It's just being used as a tool. And that's kind of, as a former liberal, that's what strikes me as tragic, is that their own political party has been hollowed out and is being exploited, and they don't even see it.
I would actually agree with that, yes, because there is actually a room and a need for a party that looks after people who work for a living. And the Democratic Party historically wanted to be the party that was the party for people who work for a living, and it's not that anymore. Hey, let me call out some of the comments because, oh, by the way, and super chats are welcome. Utopia Buster says, Jim Majors from Atheist Republic is a bully. I called him out, Max. He wanted to debate me on his channel, told he wasn't worth my time. Jim Majors is a bully and he's a coward. I still have the open challenge out to him to, they deleted me off of Atheist Republic for this. I challenge him to read and review and discuss Storming the Heavens by Daniel Paris on the League of the Militant Atheists and how it can be used, atheism can be and has been used as a political weapon. He refuses to engage that. He's a coward who won't talk about it. That or Boarded Up Painters, the new atheist denial of history, professional atheists like Jim Major are terrified to talk about books like this. I'd be shocked if we could get anybody from the Freedom from Atheism Foundation, from Religion Foundation, I mean the Freedom from Religion Foundation to talk about it too. So we may try.
Because that's another thing is that what makes the whole atheism as a lack of belief thing so ridiculous is that they all have their own pseudo history and they have their own pseudo philosophy and they have all these things that are attendant to it, and to say to an atheist that no, like the conflict thesis is wrong is basically the same as like saying to a Marxist that no, the capitalism never failed and the proletariat never, grabbed the means of production or anything. That kind of movement atheism, it makes historical predictions that have continuously failed to deliver for the last 300 years. Ever since Voltaire said that the Bible would be some relic in a museum 100 years from or like 20 years from when he lived. It's made historical predictions. They've failed. So it is an ideology that makes predictions about the future, like Marxism or like Christianity. I mean, Christianity is really the first, eschatological, basically, belief system. But it makes predictions about the future, and it's failed. So we're completely within.
They've been predicting the death of religion for about 200-300 years, and it never happens.
Yeah.
Utopia Buster says, did you see Cosmic Skeptic's new video, how the Bible supports slavery? Yeah, I haven't seen that, but let me point something out to you. As I've mentioned many times, atheism is a creepy cult religious network, and they have shared talking points and shared gurus and shared stuff like that, and they have a shared agenda. The one that has been making the rounds lately is that they have decided as a group, and this will include people like that slimy woman SQ, I won't say her name out loud, that slimy, hateful woman and her boyfriend, people like Godless Engineer, Cosmic Skeptic, the people at Atheist Republic. Jim Majors tried that one on me too, pushing that one. The chattel slavery comes from the Bible. It is filthy a lie, and they all know it's a filthy lie, is the thing. It is a talking point. Most of what the atheist collective does is politicking to spread hate propaganda. That is what everybody I just mentioned does for money. That's why they're such slime, and Christians should stop being nice to them. They're horrible people. Yes, they are spreading the meme that Christianity is responsible for slavery now. It's a perennial. They run through a list. When that one plays out, they'll go on to the Inquisitions and torture again, or they'll go on to how supposedly Christians are responsible for anti-gay attitudes again, which is another filthy lie they like to tell. We're not. They all know these things are lies that they're doing. They do it for money. They are evil people, period. And what I'm pleased to see is, again, I'm in a group called Atheism versus Theist Debates. I invite on Facebook, I invite people to come to it if you want to, because I'm a moderator on it with some atheists. Let me see if I can just pull it up real quick. Versus Theism, no, we call it the No Bans group. Okay, we got 22,000 members in it, and nobody gets to be censored unless they're, deliberately spamming or threatening people. And we got Hindus in there giving atheists shit, which is good. We've got Muslims in there giving atheists shit, which is good. We got even a few atheists with brains giving atheists shit because they recognize how idiotic most contemporary atheism is and how obnoxious and stupid it is. I do invite anybody to come join this group. We even quarrel sometimes on the mod team, but we mostly keep it together and make fun of each other, which is what it ought to be. So feel free to join. If you're Hindu and you're sick of atheists, if you're Buddhist and you're sick of atheists, if you're in your own spirituality and you're sick of atheists, come and give them grief, because they're just, the atheist team plays hard, so come back and play hard back. So there's my rant on that. And you know, you might ask how this all plays into politics, but I actually believe the godlessness of the left is what causes most of their insanity. And which is a theme that John C. Wright and I touch on quite often. We're both former atheists. Oh, by the way, everybody, John C. Wright will be here tomorrow. Monday night, we'll be streaming with him. Yeah, and we talk about this all the time. The godlessness is what makes people crazy. Because we obviously have a need for God in some capacity. And if we don't fill it with some idea of a deity, we will fill it with the state, or with market ideology, or with Marxist cant, or whatever it is. I mean, social justice leftism is an atheist religion. So, by the way, is fascism. Although the atheist movement likes to spread the myth that the fascist movement was Christian, and Hitler is Christian, and Mussolini is Christian. Almost all of that material online is easily debunked. Huh?
Yeah, look at the Franco Revolution and the Red Terror. I mean, that should put light to that notion.
If you look at live online sources, you'll hear the fairy tale that the Catholic Church and Mussolini got along great together, which is just a total lie. You go to the academic references, and Mussolini viciously persecuted the Catholic Church, and Hitler viciously persecuted both the Catholics and the Lutherans, and killed millions of them because they wouldn't give up their religion. Mussolini at one time had espoused militant atheism. Hitler at one time espoused it too, but became more of an occultist later on. And all these young people are indoctrinated with these ideological lies. When you joined atheism, you agreed to be educated in these ideological lies. And it makes Christians have reasons to really mistrust and dislike atheists.
Yeah.
When somebody else says, are you familiar with people like Rawls, who's said to be the godfather of modern SJWs? A sort of vague liberal egalitarian Christianity seems to drive SJWs. No, I cannot say I am familiar with this Rawls. Yeah, that's from basketball. And I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to call wrong on liberal Christianity. Most SJWs are extremely hostile to Christianity. I've run into it so many times. They'll even get brutal with Christians. Most SJWs despise Christians, and they especially despise Catholics. And I and a number of my friends have been their victims. So if you're somebody who thinks that SJWism is Christian friendly, it's not. Most of the most virulent, hateful atheists are SJWs. And they hate Christians over and above anything else they hate, especially Catholics. They do. I've had friends physically assaulted just by it. By people even within men's rights land I thought were friends, because they believed in men's rights, but not religious men's rights. It's disgraceful. What I would say, though, and John Wright and I have talked about this too, Marxism, atheist Marxism, cultural Marxism, regular social justice Marxism. It is an atheist. It is an atheist attempt to recapture Christian values. Because every single cultural Marxist value, every single social justice leftist value, is demonstrably a perverted and distorted version of a Christian value.
Only it is actually far more punitive than Christianity is, because you're always going to be found guilty of something, and there's no way you can atone for your crime of being white or gender or something. It is a very cruel and punitive religion at that.
Yes, social justice leftism is an atheist religion, where in place of God they have put what they call science, even though there's a lot of garbage science there, or they call it science, rationality, progress, human flourishing, human progress, all these vague aphorisms that, because they aren't rooted in anything, really always get down to whatever the leader we're following today says, or whatever the mob rule mentality says, because they don't believe in any transcendent values. Social justice leftism is an atheist religion.
And all like one of your expressions that you always use is, all they know how to do is attack. And like I said, the social giant, basically anyone on the left nowadays doesn't have any sort of image of a better future. They have no clue what their ideal world is. So all they do is they attack the people who they think are making the world bad. But that means that they just end up attacking each other. Because especially with social justice, they keep divvying up the privilege beans, and so then the more privileged part of that oppressed class gets attacked, and basically, like I said, it's all about blame and shame and punishment and all that stuff. So yeah,
show trials, yeah, just like the show trial that they did on us on the Non Sequitur show that time. It's all a farce, man. It's self-appointed rulers who, by charisma or manipulation or use of money, will rule by fiat. They'll declare today what reality is or not. I mean, that's really what it gets down to. Or just mob rule, and they love mobbing people and attacking people in mobs.
And they get to decide who gets to express their opinion, who has a right to speak. And that's a very dangerous power to have.
Yeah. And the bottom line is because they're not rooted in any core values, any transcendent values. They don't accept that there's any transcendent values except this idea of progress, and we'll reimagine the world the way we want it. And it always goes to crap that way, because but it gets back to the fact something you were saying before about George Soros and other players. There's this phony Hegelian dialectic that we're all trapped in, that I really believe forces outside and beyond the United States and the government, like Soros, like others, have manipulated us into what we call liberal versus conservative, left versus right. Man, it's a shell game. I mean, right now, Donald Trump is governing very much in the mold of the great populist Democrat Andrew Jackson. He just is. Yeah. Good and bad of Andrew Jackson, actually, are both kind of there. It's kind of stunning, and he's hated for almost identically the same reasons too, by pretty much identically the same people, and in many ways. Left versus right is a shell game. We're always being forced into this. In fact, I had a meme graphic on that because, one of the things I've noticed for the longest time, and this is again the weakness of so much, including atheism and skepticism, is you can pick apart anything, but that doesn't mean your answers are correct. I mean, one of the things I've often ranted about by certain conservatives think they can win an argument on economics by teaching us the broken window fallacy one more time and telling us to read more Hayek, rather than getting serious about the issues. You know what I mean? We get fixated on this left versus right dichotomy that isn't real, that the media itself tends to make.
Well, like I said in my discussion with Steve Turley, I think the left versus right dichotomy and the authoritarian versus libertarian dichotomy have kind of been collapsed into one, because basically what has happened is, what is going on the left is not ideological. Basically, what they've done is they've ramped up this orange man bad mentality, and when you are convinced that someone is literally a Nazi, anything becomes justifiable at that point. If I truly believed Adolf Hitler was sitting down in my restaurant, I would probably throw him out too. So anything becomes justifiable at that point. And if you say, oh, well, Adolf Hitler wants free speech, Adolf Hitler wants due process, Adolf Hitler wants the presumption of innocence, all these ostensible liberal virtues, you say, no, that's bad because, Cheeto Hitler wants that, so it must be opposed. Basically, I just see a huge manipulation from possibly these kind of globalist players that have gotten liberals to completely invert their ideology.
Yeah, let me get back to it. I think this is done on purpose through neurolinguistic programming, or frankly, what Owen Benjamin would call wizardry.
Yeah.
I found this graphic on the internet that does explain it fairly well. The Hegelian dialectic is where the ruling elite create a problem, anticipating in advance the reaction of the population to the crisis, and thus conditioning the people to call for change. When the population is properly conditioned and the desired agenda of the ruling elite is presented as the solution they present is not intended to solve the problem, but to serve as the basis for a new problem or exacerbate the existing one. When the newly created problem reaches the boiling point, it becomes the foundation for the people to clamor for change again. This process is repeated over and over all the time, moving society towards whatever point they have in mind. And they would be the ruling elite who control both the mainstream left and the mainstream right. And therefore, they control how the dialogue goes. It's all based on Hegel and his idea of thesis, counter-thesis, synthesis. But they force us into this dialectic. So we're either going to what you might call the neocon or globalist rights preferred solution, or the outright, globalist socialist left solution, and we're constantly marched in the same kind of globalist direction they want us going in. And breaking out of that, this is why I even get tired of saying the left versus the right, because there's a lot of conservatives who are part of this, pushing the dialogue in the direction they want it to go in, because they're stooges of bankers and transnational corporate interests and Wall Street and all that. What's so disturbing to me is I've seen this for a long time. If you had actually looked, if you went back in time more than 10 years and you looked at Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party, and if you broke down their complaints and the reforms they wanted, there was like a 70–80% overlap. And yet they hated each other.
Yeah.
And that was that game being played because both parties were being fed by rich people that had their own agenda. That's what's going on with Antifa now, and this is what's going to piss some people off. Antifa kids are being manipulated by global forces who want them to be acting the way they are. It's not just the Democrats by any means. It's forces like Soros, like the bankers and all that, and the big corporations. They're funding Antifa because they want Antifa to do one thing. And guess what? Yellow vesters, people on the other side are doing that to you. I hate to say it out loud because I'm a fan of Steve Turley's and all that. Maybe this will get me in trouble because I think he's a little too glowingly positive on it. I think the people joining the Yellow Vest Revolution uprising are going to wind up being basically left out in the cold, just like the Tea Partiers were, because they're being used.
Possibly. I kind of resist people who kind of put them in with the Brexiters and the Trump people, because I think what they have is very liminal and very kind of incipient. So you can't really put an ideological tag on it because it's still in the process of becoming. But what it is some form of populism, whether it's a left populism or a right populism. I don't think it would be appropriate to put that kind of tag on it at this point.
Okay, well, maybe I'll call myself an old cynic and you'll turn out to be right, but I saw the Yellow Vest start in one place and then all of a sudden flare up in country after country after country. They had alternative media support. They had somebody pushing. They still have people pushing them to do it. It made some kind of sense in France, but now people who are organizing this think they're entirely grassroots, but any friends who are coming in with free resources for you, to get places, or to get you some yellow vests, or to get you some anonymous masks or whatever, those people have an agenda too. Here's the thing. I might get in. People like Turley, Steve Turley, who I love and respect, are so glowingly positive about the growth of ethnic and civic and cultural nationalism. It's like you realize this nationalist move is a global phenomenon. And there are people with global interests who are favoring the growth of nationalism. It's worth noting that because they don't always necessarily have the purest motives either. Do you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
And I really do think the yellow vesters, a lot of them, I know I've seen some reports on the yellow vesters. Some of them are outright communists. Some of them are right wing. Some of them, they're just called kind of a motley crew of people who are upset with the status quo. But that doesn't mean when the status quo is overturned, they're going to get what they want.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, it's the whole thing with the Mensheviks or the Marxists who helped oppose the Shah in Iran, and then once the Ayatollah took power, of course, he lined them all up against the wall. You know.
Yes, like the Bolsheviks did with the Mensheviks. Yep, that's exactly. You become a useful idiot.
Yeah.
Don't, you know. This is why I got all excited about the yellow vests, and I'm like, oh no, this is not going to end well. It isn't. I mean, it is a signal of change, but be careful. I'm not saying anything bad about a person who wears the yellow vest per se. Antifa, if you joined Antifa, you got brainwashed and used and joined a Marxist cult, then you'll eventually grow out of it. If you're a yellow vester, you're probably a little more serious, but yeah, you can get played. Just keep that in mind.
I want to go back to something you said earlier when you were talking about the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street and the weird overlap, because I've noticed something weird. You know, when the mainstream media talk about QAnon or basically anything that comes up organically from the internet, they say it's a far right conspiracy theory. It's far right. When you actually look at the, by saying this, I'm not passing any sort of judgment on QAnon. That's a separate discussion that we're not having here.
Right.
When you look at the contents of like the Great Awakening, what does it basically say? It says that the problems of the world are largely due to kind of economic adventuring and basically you know, Western imperialism. And all these things are gumming up the works worldwide. And this is basically the kind of global view of the Great Awakening. And this is the far-right conspiracy theory. I'm like, wait a minute. Isn't that what Noam Chomsky was saying back in the 80s and 90s? That
you know what? Yeah.
Everything that's wrong with the world is because of American imperialism and economic adventure. That's what like Noam Chomsky was saying. But now, because QAnon is for Cheeto Hitler, then that ideology automatically, by proxy, becomes far right. So that's how this inversion works.
But it does go the other way though, because we could have a whole show on this. I know we've been going a while, so I don't know how much longer we want to go. I think American imperialism is a real thing. I used to be one of those quote unquote conservatives who didn't believe that, but I've read enough and I've seen enough. American imperialism has been a serious problem worldwide, and that was true under Obama. It was true under Bush. It was true under Clinton. It's actually been true for a very it was true under the original Bush. Read Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, or just look for his videos. America has done so many horrible things. It's the thing is that even there, if you look deeper into it, and the QAnon people ought to look into that, or go to a better source like True Stream Media. We were getting played. The communist imperialism was a real thing, and U.S. imperialism as a counterforce was a real thing. The U.S. didn't stop doing some of the dodgy things it did when the Soviets collapsed, but the U.S.'s new enemy became China, and the new enemy's been China since the early 90s, and nobody has admitted it. And the thing is the United States was manipulated by international interests into becoming an imperialist power. That's how I see it. That really, I mean, Americans have no idea how much they were kept unaware of things their government had done. And that, I mean, CIA has done some horrible things. And as an American, I own that one now. But I don't accept it. I don't accept that America is quote unquote to blame, because America was manipulated into it. All the major military powers and conflicts of the last couple of centuries have been manipulated by international bankers. I truly believe that that's true. And that also involves names like Rockefeller, as well as Soros and a few others. Left and right are a shell game. I'm telling you, they are. I'm sorry, I should stop running now.
That's the thing, is that the neocons, you could say that some of the neocons jumped over to the Clinton side during the last election because they had more in common with the neoliberals than they did with Trump.
Yeah, so, much more corporatist, much more tied to international interests rather than national interests. Trump is a response to that, good, bad, or otherwise. That's just what he is. And those who are benefiting from a nationalist turn are happy, and those who are not benefiting are unhappy. The Mueller investigation, though, to get back to it,
I thought that went full circle very beautifully, actually. Yeah.
Because the Mueller probe was so obviously a desperate attempt to find something that wasn't there. People who really wanted to believe it was there believed it was there, and it's not there. And I actually think it was a game. There may be other things you could get Trump on, but they were so desperate for this one. Mm-hmm. And time after time, I mean, I really think at this point, the Mueller investigation's failure to show much of anything, except allegations of obstruction of justice, maybe, that even those can't be substantiated. This just helps reassure Trump winning.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure if and maybe this would be for another show, but I'm pretty sure that this effort to get rid of the Electoral College and go to a popular vote, I'm actually quite positive that at this point Donald Trump would know how to win the popular vote.
Yeah.
He himself has said he wasn't trying to win the popular vote. He wanted to win the Electoral College. That was his strategy because that's how you win. And then he said, and if it was a popular vote and that was the goal, I would win that and would construct my strategy around that. Although, by the way, these states who are all saying that they will give their electoral votes to, you've heard about this, right?
Yeah.
States are saying whoever the popular winner is will get their state's electoral votes no matter how their vote goes. They seem confident this is going to work out well. I'm not sure that it will give them what they want. It will somewhat change presidential politics, but do you not think that there will be court challenge after court challenge after court challenge after court challenge as a result of this? The first time somebody says, hey, I'm from Colorado, and Colorado went blue, but went for the Democrats, but my vote went to the Republican because the popular vote went to the Republican. I actually see lawsuits on the basis of denying people proper representation, because you could make a case for it, right?
Well, the Electoral College is in the Constitution, so it is contradiction to what's in the Constitution. Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be up to the states how they send their electors, and states can change that as they wish. But if there's just the thing is that there's also case law and other constitutional law provisions, both at the federal level and definitely probably at the state level in many states, where people are going to say, hey, no, my vote should count the way I voted here in the state. I am, and they will have court cases for it. Plus, every time there's a disputed recount, the entire process will grind down as people start throwing more and more lawsuits in states where they think they can pick up more votes. I actually think this plan for shifting the Electoral College is not going to work out the way its proponents think it will.
Well, it could blow up in their faces very amusingly, because these are all deep blue states anyway. So if they're going to flip any which way, it's going to be red,
Yeah, right. I mean, if and I'm not just talking about Trump, a populist Republican who liberals or leftists hate could easily run a populist campaign that would get him massive popular votes. He really could. To think otherwise is foolish. Whatever, man. The bottom line is it seems that I think it's obvious to most people that the desperation to take out Trump is at such a fever pitch. They've got nothing left. But I mean, did you see Rachel Maddow practically crying on the air, like literally voice shaking and her chin quivering because Robert Mueller couldn't come up with anybody to indict?
And you would think that hearing that your president did not commit treason would be a cause for celebration. No, these people have so much invested that I really do think, first off, a lot more people, maybe millions of people, are going to realize they've been fed a pack of lies and are going to examine it. They're going to have to do it, because I know a lot of people are in denial. Both you and I have seen lots of people online in denial. That's what they say. Give these people their time. They have to figure it out. They have to figure out they've been lied to. Give them their time. They'll work it out. But I think more and more millions of people will be peeling off into the Trump camp.
Either into the Trump camp for now, or maybe into third parties and things like that.
Yeah. But anyway, undermine the Democrat and people, even Robert Mueller, even though he may be a Republican, people who are part of that machine. Yeah, they're peeling off from that.
There's an old machine in Washington that held both parties, and it's collapsing. It's definitely, the neocon element is definitely fallen out of favor in Republican camps. And Democrats, I don't know, they might get a shakeout if they get a spanking next year, both in Congress and get defeated by Trump, which I think likely. I think they will do poorly next year. I may be wrong. It might get the Democrats to clean themselves out. Because we really should have, if we're going to have two parties, they should both be functioning. But I don't know. Sometimes I think that really we'd be better off pulling the country apart and breaking up into separate nations. I don't know. Sometimes I think all of this contemporary politics is all just a shell game anyway. So I'm rambling too much.
It's gotten a lot more poisonous in the last 3 or 4 years, I'd say. But as far as the Democrat Party, I think I do hold out hope that normalcy can be retained. And I'm not like some trad who wants to go back to the 1950s or something. If we can resume like a 1990s kind of political normalcy, that would be fine with me. But what's the thing that they say in like the 12-step programs? Like you need to hit rock bottom before you can bounce back. And I think that's what the Democrat Party needs to do. They just need to take that. They need to take that running dive into the empty swimming pool, and then maybe in like 10 or 15 years, the germ of a new genuine populist liberalism can take root in the husk of the Democrat Party.
It's hard to remember because he and his wife changed so much over the years. But when Bill Clinton ran for president and won in 1992, he ran as a very conservative Democrat. Yeah. What would be considered right-wing, maybe even to the right of Donald Trump, promoting things like workfare instead of welfare and education requirements and talking about limiting abortions and making them, I mean, you can laugh now, but they sounded like they meant it at the time. Let's make abortion safe, legal, and rare. Let's make all that a goal. Going after anti-white racism.
It's shout your abortion. So yeah,
we've gone far away from that. We want abortion rare was the message, and going after someone called Sister Soldier for being hateful and nasty to white people. And he used to make a point of going to church regularly, publicly, and chiding Democrats about being negative. The progressive elements that's anti-Christian say stop being that way. This was all Bill Clinton in like 1991, 1992. But by the time of the Obamas and Hillary, it was a completely different thing.
Yeah.
If we had that kind of Bill Clinton Democrat again, there's a lot of people that support him. All right, well, I'll tell you what, we should probably wrap this up because we've ADHD'd enough. But yeah,
can I end on a good note? Now that the whole Mueller thing is cleared out, I have a question. Do you think that all that the tech companies and just the entire machine of the left will realize that their efforts to engineer public discourse have failed and it will come to no good, and all the crazy tech censorship we've seen will begin to kind of, they'll stop trying to do that?
I think that the censorship we're seeing is not going to change. I think the people in charge are the type of people the type of godless people who will basically hang on to the very bitter end and will do as much damage on their way out the door as they can. Okay. I really believe that, and at this point, and so like serious, I don't know. I'm actually scared of what's coming. I'd like to think we're going to get back to some kind of normalcy, but I think there's still a war on for control over the internet, and the forces of censorship are getting stronger, but maybe they'll break, or maybe they'll be broken. I will say this. I meant to mention this earlier, but let's close on this. Everybody, please get a dissenter account. You should get one, Deflating Atheism. Everybody else should get a dissenter account. Dissenter is gab.com's new comment section of the internet. You can literally look at any story on the internet and leave comments, and they won't be censored. You know how so many comments get censored on atheist sites, on leftist sites, on mainstream media sites, on the American Psychological Association, on feminist groups. They don't allow comments. They don't allow open commentary. And Dissenter allows you to do this. You could either see what somebody else is discussing and add your comments, or you can start your own by just putting in a link and starting a comment thread on it. And a lot of journalists are totally butthurt about Dissenter because they don't like the fact that people can freely comment. So if there is hope, it is going to be in apps like Dissenter. At this point, I'm willing to say I'm in with both feet. Everybody should get a Gab account to replace Twitter, just so that you can get Dissenter. Go to dissenter.com, and I'm not getting paid or anything. Go to dissenter.com. You need a Gab account, so you sign up, then you go to dissenter.com. Start commenting on the internet again. We're allowed to do it again, thanks to Dissenter. And they're trying to get rid of Dissenter, just like they're trying to get rid of Gab. So if you want to support free speech, get on there, man. All right, everybody. Well, like I said, tomorrow night we got John C. Wright, and we'll be talking old guys know stuff, and we're probably going to talk conspiracy theory stuff like Rockefellers, because we're getting tired of the atheist thing too, even though we're both former atheists. So anyway, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Go hit Deflating Atheism's channel. He's much bigger than us. Yeah. And please subscribe here to our new channel. Rob, send your people over to join the new Red Pill Religion channel. And God bless everybody. Have a good night.